And that sound means we are now live here on our YouTube channel. And Cody,
So
going
nice. We
ahead
tried to
on
do it
this.
twice, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So nice. We tried to do it twice. Love that, Frankie. By the way, welcome out here, 12/18/2020. It is the last day of the trading week here. It's been a pretty good week for markets, actually. Been fairly stable and kind of just grinding upward. We're testing resistance. We'll talk about charts and market action as we've got this quadruple witching Friday here where there's a little bit more volume to be expected today. Nothing outside of that really grabs my attention from the quadruple witching part of it, but it is interesting to note. We got a full crew here today. We've got Mark doing analysis. We've got Coach Frank here to provide everything that he always does, including charts, technical analysis, insight, and just pure happiness. Frank, you always make me put me in a good mental place. I don't know if you know that or not.
I'm glad. It's better than the alternative, right?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And I am here, your host, Tim Justice, to break down the show here for you today. Last day before Tesla gets included into the S&P 500. We'll look at Tesla, its chart, its price action, have a little conversation about that. Stimulus conversations are ongoing. It looks like they may or may not meet the deadline here today. We'll talk a little bit about that when we're talking about broad markets. Copper continues its tremendous run, hitting the highest price it's seen since 2013. We'll take a peek at that. FedEx earnings, a couple other news items, and yes, we do have Frank's charts here for you today. If you're a veteran of my community, you're coming in right now, you know what I'm going to ask you. Hashtag Team Tackle in the chat. Give me a thumbs up. Let's get the word out on this show and on the YouTube channel here. We did crack 13,000 subscribers. Welcome to everybody out there who's new to our YouTube channel. Tackle Trading, we do this show every day. Whenever the markets are live, we go live. And if you are brand new, you've not done it yet, click that subscribe button and come back and join us. Let's rock and roll here, guys. Frankie, how are you doing today, sir?
Doing well. Can't complain. Even a little bit. A little bit. You know what it's like in small town Utah, right? Sometimes your power decides to randomly go off a few times. So that would be my biggest complaint. And if that's my biggest complaint, I can certainly live with it.
I think that if that's the biggest problem you run into today, I think you're doing all right, my friend.
I'll take it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Marky, how you doing, sir?
It is the monthly expirations today, which frees up for a cash flow trader a ton of leverage, a ton of margin. So it's always a nice day, especially after a good stretch, right? So I don't think I'm going to have a single thing get put to me. So life is good today.
Mm-hmm. Life is
Expiration day is a great day.
You like it as well, Cody?
Absolutely, I like expiration day. It frees up the capital to where I can put it back to work again.
There you go.
It's like, yes. Oh, you need to hold my capital. Okay, well now you give it back to me. Okay, let me put it back to work.
Mm-hmm.
They hand me my capital and I put it right back in the market. They hand me my capital, I put it right back in the market.
I love it, brother. I love it. And whenever you get that, obviously you're locking in those trades, you're journaling them, you're loving the cash flow, then you go back right out into the market and continue to run your systems. I love that there, Cody. By the way, Cody is running my screen here today. Cody, can you give me a quick read on the S&P 500? Let's start with the technicals. Just tell me what you're seeing here, and then I'll get Frank's and Mark's take on it as well.
I'm seeing it press up against its old high, deciding whether or not it wants to move upward with it going into Friday, kind of losing a little bit of momentum into that upward resistance zone, but we are still pushing, and we did create a new high on the S&P this morning. Dow looks about the same, just pushing up against that high base. It did not create a new high, but it's got that base that it needs to break out of. As Frank could tell everyone, and everyone who knows Frank, breakouts are strong moves, so that would be a fantastic move to happen. The NASDAQ taking the lead again. It did actually break above, and it's sitting at a new high again today as well. And the Russell, which has been the biggest mover over the past 2 months, is still just on its upward trajectory with, Mark's 9 just kind of keeping it up. Nothing's really pulling back the Russell. Small caps have just been the leaders in the past 2 months, hands down.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
there's my really quick run through of the 4 indexes because they're moving. We're getting back to work. I love it.
Storyline's been the same across many of these indexes for a bit. Frankie, let's go back on the S&P for a minute here, Cody, and let's talk about it. Frank, what are you seeing in the price action on the indexes and the charts?
As boring as it is, Cody pretty much sums it up. I always kind of expect, not that I get it every year, but I always expect kind of that second half drift in December, right? As we get into the holidays. I know I check out a little bit during the holiday season. And I know that a lot of other traders do as well. So I kind of expect that drift. Price action wise, I mean, it's been just there, right? I mean, we're knocking on the door of new highs, not a lot of momentum, not a lot of excitement behind it, but maybe that's just because we're spoiled, right? What new high? Unless you're talking about the rut, and then the rut's just nuts, right? So, right now we're just knocking at the door on resistance. I do expect it will break that resistance personally. Obviously, until we see it, it hasn't happened. But I also kind of expect, most likely scenario is a little bit of a drift as we close out the year. That's kind of what my expectations are, at least.
Mark, one of the things that we've been tracking and waiting for months now has been this stimulus from Congress. They've obviously been negotiating. We've been talking about it on a day-by-day basis, and I feel like we're just kind of, in Groundhog's Day at this point. It's like, okay, we got a deadline. Well, let's push the deadline. We got a deadline. Let's push the deadline. That was the same narrative back in October before the election. That's the same narrative now. In fact, they got a deadline at the end of the day that if they don't hit it, they might have no funding for the government, but they could always pass some emergency funding relief or whatever it might be. I did see that Mitch McConnell did say today or last night, we're going to stay here till it's finished, even if that means working through the weekend, which is highly likely. Mark, we may not get that deal today. It may not even be over the weekend, and they may keep pushing that, but feels like they're still pushing. It feels like they're working. That quote right out of Mitch McConnell tells you that they have every intention of getting something done. What's your read on stimulus, Mark? What do you think it'll mean?
It's all about Mitch. Listen, everything about spending for the next 2 years, unless the Democrats win the 2 Georgia seats in January in the Senate, it's all about Mitch McConnell signaling. Another quote, he said, he is even more optimistic now than I was last night. He said that today, that a bipartisan, bicameral framework for a major rescue package is very close at hand. So, that's been building. Mitch McConnell, if he would not signal it unless he believed that. I think you're going to see more obstruction out of McConnell in the next 2 years, but for now, I think he wants to get this one out of the way.
Marky, what is your read on markets around the holiday season? Frank talked about taking some time off, even, maybe not even as narrowly focused on markets next week.
Technically, we are in the official Santa Claus rally. Now, November, December are very good historic months as a whole. Some people call Santa Claus rally the whole thing. But as far as the specific technical, some people refer to these last couple of weeks as the Santa Claus rally. Now, I don't know if we're going to get that or not, but they're usually not very bearish. And so sometimes, like we've seen over the years, the markets just basically take a couple weeks off, right? Who knows what happens in 2020, but it is usually, it's one of the reasons I've been aggressive in there's a lot of reasons I've been aggressive in cash flow the last 4 or 5 weeks. But another one is know that we're coming into a couple week period. My goodness, if you think about it, we got 2-3 day weekends for the market coming up, where Christmas and New Year's falls on a Friday this year.
Yeah, so and half days, right?
And half days right before. So you essentially have 2 4-day weekends coming up for market action, which, my goodness gracious, for a cash flow trader, talk about
oh yeah,
that's 2 theta givings in the month of December this year. 2 theta givings in the month of this. That's fantastic.
Frankie, any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, Merry Christmas to the theta traders, right? They're not going to complain about that. But I do agree with Mark on both sides, kind of the drifty drift and good times for cash flow. And there will be, of course, directional trades, but I'm all right if I miss 1 or 2 of them personally.
Well, you have a potential directional trade set up here just on the broad market. If you look at it here, guys, we are pushing resistance. We hit intraday all-time highs the last 2 days. Could that be played directionally here, Frank, like even on the S&P?
Yeah, of course. In my opinion, anytime something breaks resistance, it is a signal that could be traded. Whether or not you would or should is another thing. I think what I'd like to see is let's just chill next week and then a little break, the week after Christmas for that 3.5 days. That's what Frank wants for Christmas. Will he get it? Well, I don't know. Stimulus, one way or another might have something to do with it, but that is what I'm asking for Christmas. Consolidate Christmas week and then break next week.
I got no problem with that. In fact, that would be a wonderful Christmas gift, because the week after, when you catch that breakout, it would let that thing kind of wind itself up and whatnot. I get that. I wouldn't have any problem with that if that's the way it played itself out. Let's take a look at commodities here, Cody. Gold first, and give me your technical read. Cody is on.
I get unmuted if I'm
saw-
going to give you a technical read.
I got to tell you, I saw this thing on Facebook this morning. Facebook rarely makes me laugh, but somebody posted a meme, an image that said the quote of the year is "You're on mute." So
That's so true. I love it.
That is pretty. Yeah, that's pretty funny.
yeah. All right, Cody, what are you seeing in gold here?
I like the potential turnaround that we're starting to see on gold. So, hit off that 200, moved up, and poked its head out yesterday, having a pause day today. But it feels like everything's really having a pause day on this Friday. And I mean, drawing a line on this, there's two different ways you could draw it from, this point to that point, and you can say, okay, it hasn't really broken out of this wedge yet. If you were to look at these lines here, then it tried to break out of that one before, and it did break above that one. So when you really look at kind of this zone of resistance on this wedge of gold, as we're pinching between that 50 and that 200, it does have the feeling that it's going to want to go up, and that's also in correlation with the U.S. dollar getting beaten up and going down. That we're seeing some movement and some price appreciation in the gold markets.
And zoom me in a little bit there, Cody. I love that what you're drawing and talking about, because for me, Frank, the zone is 1900 that it has to clear here because of a couple of different obvious things. An old pivot point at 1900 there in mid November. We had some tests there. We also have that falling trend line that Cody has drawn, and it's also a significant round number. Now, you got to love the price action on gold here this week. I mean, it's been healthy. It's been moving upward. It's been having a couple of very nice days in that regard. We're now dojing on a Friday. Frank, how do you have gold going into the weekend?
This is the first signal, right? So we've kind of taken it and kind of flipped it around. Now we've got higher highs and higher lows. That's always the first step, right? We've got to build on support, and certainly got to break resistance. It's going to be early in the process, so much of that will depend on you, right? Aggressively, I think you could have bought yesterday personally, but that is pretty aggressive, right? Because you've got 19 and maybe I want to see it, pull back off of 19 and look to buy into the retracement. So a lot of it's going to be the development going forward, right? This is a good first step. This is a mandatory first step, right? If we can't break resistance, we can't go up. So we've finally done that. It's a little tricky, I think, to get in for a swing trade right now. I think probably your best bet is to see a little bit of appreciation and look at that next pullback. And that's kind of where my head is in regards to it, which is hard to project, going into the next week or so, because I kind of need to see that. Or, if we do get that old consolidation springboard off of the 9, that would be a signal that we could look for as well. But I do think that break yesterday was a signal. I think now it's just how much more do you individually need?
Marky, what about you? What you read on gold here?
Listen, we're in a really good cash flow environment for gold. We bounced off the 50 weekly on that low. I mean, and we bounced to the penny, which showed that there was no fear at all in gold. Like when I analyze moving averages, which is what I do, when I see a to the penny bounce, and you see this a lot, you see this on daily 20s, you see this on weeklies, that shows me that there was zero fear at all about a significant gold decline. It was simply a technical move in the short term. Bounces off a major support area, Al goes buy it up, and then you go up. Now we're coming into a falling 20. I don't know what the catalyst is that sends it higher other than general grind. Eventually there will be one, because gold 10 years from now is going to be higher. Come on, we all know that in this environment. So it's finding a way in your portfolio, and I think this is the sweet spot for gold, where you own gold, you find some way to cash flow it, and then you add more if it goes lower. If you can come up with a plan that does that, gold is going to be a very healthy contributing part to your portfolio in the next 10 years.
Yeah.
I would even say physical. I have a friend of mine that's, just getting started in the markets. And I mentioned that, owning some physical metal, and he was like, wait, you can own like physical metal, like not just coins? I was like, no, you can buy bars. And he was like, show me. And I took him right to the Zaner website and was like, look, you can buy a bar right now. And sure enough, he was like, I'm buying 3. I was like, dude, good on you. Like grab that gold, because he knows that gold's going to be going up long term. and he's looking to invest and do it correctly. So both in your portfolio and physical, like own some gold.
Own some gold.
Own some gold. Own some gold. Let's move on to black gold next. Crude oil, if we can. Marky, I've been liking this chart setup that has been developing here for a while. It's been grinding higher. I've been always thinking $50 here as a target. Mark, let's get your analysis on crude oil here first. It's becoming healthier. It's obviously got some resistance and some challenges in front of it. Had a great month and a half. If you just look at price performance, what's your read on crude?
I mean, if you had the 9 EMA, my girlfriend, and anyone who doesn't have the 9 EMA gets scolded. Ask Tyler recently. You would see that crude oil has been living on that 9 for almost 30 trading sessions. That's an extensive period of time. The momentum in this whole reopening theme, coming out of a recession theme, is real. As long as that theme remains prominent, small caps will find stability, oil will find stability, and then constantly grind higher until they don't at some point, until you get a topping pattern or something like that. The theme is strong. It is going to take the theme to deride this right now. And that is true for copper, that is true for small caps, that is true for a lot of areas of the market that have been the winners since the Pfizer vaccine news. I mean, all you have to do is go back to Pfizer vaccine day, look at charts, and you can see where the winners are. Semiconductors, small caps, oil, copper, steel, like all kinds of other things since the Pfizer vaccine day. So as long as that general program is working in computers, in trading, it will continue to work. It is stretched, though. I mean, it's been a good month in all of these areas. It's been a very good month in all these areas. So eventually it will stop, but until you see a breach of the 9, the party's on.
Frank, how important is $50 a barrel here? Because in my brain, I've built it out as a very important location. Old support, new resistance. It's kind of going to be the next challenge. It's a round number. But what's your read on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's the round number in and of itself definitely catches your attention. But I mean, we had a pretty significant breakdown, right? We tested that 50 area multiple times. And when it gave out, it got ugly. Now, we know there was news and stuff, but the chart's the chart, right? So I think the wise thing is to respect it and assume it is going to be a significant challenge for it. Derail it completely. I'm not going to go that far, but I would expect some sort of a battle there. I mean, very natural place to take profits if you've been trading into this breakout. It's certainly not the place that today's not going to be the day that I say, you know what, I should have traded this breakout, right? Everyone knows I didn't trade the breakout on crude. I've been looking at energy stocks. Today's not going to be the day that I say, you know what, I can't take it anymore. I got to jump in right ahead of $50. So I think you have to look at it as the next significant challenge. Let's see how it behaves there, consolidates, pulls back, and maybe there's something beyond that. But I think at this point in time, I mean, you've got a ton of history there, right? On top of it being $50, I think erring on the side of trusting the charts to play.
Also, I mean, $50, even so, all the technicals completely agree, Frank, but $50 in the actual oil space, and I have a lot of friends that work in oil in Texas, some refineries, some actually out in the fields. $50 is a big mental level for people who work in the oil field, because under 50, drillers aren't pushing as much. Some of your roughnecks aren't going out as often because.
Are you certain of this? Or is this possible this is a wives' tale? Because I've heard this from everybody forever about how crude has to be at this number, or Saudi Arabia doesn't make money, or oil drillers.
Well, not necessarily Saudi Arabia, but it's more. It's not necessarily on the the larger companies like Exxon or Chevron or things like that. But the drillers and the roughnecks that are out there, rather than sending out two different crews that are rotating, maybe there's just one crew that's, going out, coming back on. So there are people who are just sitting, twiddling their thumbs, like, I want to get out there. I want to, get my paycheck. But if the oil isn't selling to the rate that it needs to, they're not going to be drilling as much. So there is a supply and demand argument there with oil. Now, what that exact level is, when you bring up like the Saudi Arabia argument, is I think it's kind of subjective it's not necessarily objective. Like 50 isn't necessarily an exact number. We don't know that. And like you've said, yeah, Saudi Arabia says they can't make money below a certain level. Yeah, whatever. You can still make money. But I think there is that mental aspect to it due to the workers that work in the field that may not be going to work at certain price levels.
Oh, I know there's a mental aspect to it. There's no question about it. And I think a lot of that might actually come down to this is what we've always been used to, right? I mean, if you think about, and this is one thing Mark loves about commodities. I mean, crude oil around $50 a barrel. I know it had a tremendous downtrend in 14 to bring it down into these locations. It used to be trading a lot higher. But Mark, from 2015, we're in the 50 to 60 range. In 2016, we're in the 40 to 30 range. That's when it dipped a little bit, but then around 50 bucks, around 50 bucks, around 50 bucks. It had a year there in 18, 19 where it went up around that $70 mark, but then back in the 50 to 60 range. I mean, $50 a barrel has been a kind of a magnet for the better part of 7 or 8 years. Mark, you anything to add to this?
No, I mean, listen, I like on a recent breakout, I added a little exposure to oil, just out of pure stubbornness, if anything else. Like, I mean, when trends are strong, I mean, I'll add a little bit. I'm not a huge believer in oil being the great play of 2021. I mean, if the economy gets up and running again, lots of things are going to do well. I have exposure to those things. I have a little bit of exposure to oil now. So if the economy gets up and running, the reopening, I'll do just fine because I'm playing different areas of this general theme. A little bit on oil, but I don't think we can forget how bad people hate energy. And I think this is more of a short-term move than a long sustainable move.
Cody, let's keep flashing through if we can here. Let's go to the dollar next. And, obviously a little bit oversold there in the short term where it was. And it had a little pop. Frankie, give me a read on this dollar chart.
It's ugly.
Ugly.
It's real ugly, right? And it fought at support, but I don't think there's a whole lot of shock that we gave out a couple of weeks ago. Like you said, it is a bit extended. Doesn't mean it can't keep falling, right? I would expect that trend will continue. It just makes it maybe difficult if I'm not a Forex trader, but if I'm trying to trade specifically, this chart would be a little difficult today. But I mean, you're below everything, right? You've got, on the dollar index, 88, as the next real support zone, 88.50. There's not much positive to say about this chart right now.
No, it's ugly. It's downtrending. It's breaking down. It's under pressure. We're printing money out of every, out of our ears. It's crazy what's happening here with the dollar this year. And obviously it's still under pressure. The question is, how much further does it have down? There's not really many floors in here, Frank, on the long-term chart.
Can you go to the dollar index? And because once again, instead of doing all this stuff,
I can't.
But it's right in that 88 ballpark, Mark.
It's broken on. I wish I could do it on.
Well, anyways, there's a support
everyone
there.
everyone should be looking at $DXY on your own chart, but this is broken on the paper trading.
Okay.
Well,
I agree with you, Mark. We should make a petition to fix $DXY.
Cody has been calling for a petition on DXY for every week for about 6-8 months now. This is one of his pet peeves, no doubt about it. So on the index, Mark, there's a couple of floors within, shouting distance.
Yeah, I mean, one of the only. I mean, I'm always trying to analyze what the short term volatility might arise, and the dollar's so oversold, and if you get a snapback short covering rally at any point, you're going to see a lot of volatility in commodities, and it could bleed over into stocks for that 1-2 day period. Mm-hmm. I think it provides a buying opportunity when that all plays out. In fact, I really strongly feel it provides a buying opportunity, but that is something I'm monitoring on to look for. I think it's going to happen. Like, listen, when you get this overextended, when you get this oversold, there is usually a snapback rally at some point. That's going to cause havoc in commodities for a 1-2-3 day period. And I think it's going to provide an excellent opportunity to enter into those commodities. And it could bleed over to stock for that couple day period too. So that's probably going to happen sometime in the next 6 weeks or so.
And then 2 more quick ones on the big picture analysis. Then I want to get into individual company news and then some charts from Coach Frank. Bitcoin had a tremendous run here this week. Frankie, my question is for you. After a huge move to the upside, after a consolidation breakout where you caught the signal you were waiting for some time, and it runs like this 2 candles in a row on volume and a lot of volatility, how do you deal with a doji like this after that situation?
Well, if you're not in it, then you probably weren't getting in it, right? Because your signal was the break, right? So it's probably, you're probably glad, right? If you miss that breakout because you want some new development. If you're in it, technically speaking, I could understand the profit taking side. Now, I imagine most Bitcoin traders aren't thinking that way, and I certainly don't disagree with that. You just, at this point in time, you have to be open to the idea that a pullback into the 9, in towards that 20. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I actually don't think it probably will, but I don't know, obviously. But any pullback into that old breakout point would be reasonable, would be, still healthy, right? And so I think the big question is, if I'm not in, either I get a consolidation or some sort of a pullback, right? If I am in, my big question is, am I comfortable sitting through that pullback, right? Because if I'm not, then I'm probably going to really tighten up that stop. If I am, and most of the Bitcoin people that I know, probably fit more into this side. I'm just enjoying the ride, right?
So I want to like talk about that a little bit, because if you're going to use a phrase that you're a Bitcoin trader and add that trader on there, you should be taking some profit. You should be scaling out a little bit. I'm not saying you need to sell all your Bitcoin holding. If you're just a holder, then yeah, you don't even care what the chart looks like. You're just like, keep going, go to 400,000, whatever. But if you're
I can't imagine.
a Bitcoin trader, you should take some profit here.
Sure. I can't imagine the thought process. Could you imagine a trader or let's say a hodler in Bitcoin? You got to get that D in front of the L, Frank. Hodler.
Tim just had a Game of Thrones moment.
I know.
No. That's what they call the holders in Bitcoin.
Oh, they call them Hodor?
HODL is how they spell it.
Oh, okay.
Specifically, they do that on purpose. They call it a hodl because Bitcoin people just want to be a little bit unique and they're snowflakes. So they get what they want. They get it. They get to rename the word hold. Yeah. I don't know if you do that.
That's not going to get me to add more exposure.
No.
This has been around for years.
I've seen it. I refuse to acknowledge it.
Anyway, could you imagine if you bought near the tip in 2017, the market crashes, you were pulled in with the euphoria from the public, you rode it out for 3 years, and then the first time you get a little bit of profit, now you panic on a doji and sell? No, Cody.
Yeah.
Well, no, but it's not all of it. It's taking some profit. Now, if they hit that high tick, well, I have some not so nice words to tell people who were buying at parabolic uptrends in 2017 for Bitcoin. If you own Bitcoin prior to 2017 and it did all the run up and you just held through it, or if you bought, somewhere back here, like Bitcoin's going to come back, or you actually bought a technical breakout like we had there, or you bought the breakout pullback like I love, and you moved from there. If you bought any of these signals to get you in, then those would be the signals that you should be saying, okay, I am, up a lot on my overall position. Let me lock some of that in to decrease my exposure if there's a pullback. And if there's not a pullback, well, you still have some that can continue to move. If you do get a pullback, then you can put that money back in at a cheaper price and lower your overall cost average in the Bitcoin trade. That's my point.
Aglika here in the chat says, I did that. I bought in 2017 and then it crashed. I'm sure there's a lot of emotion around getting back involved in a product if that was your experience with a stock or a product. And we all have our names, Frank, whether they're companies you've traded,
EA.
EA, sure, or commodities or Bitcoin or whatever it is. These emotions are real. I think that at this point, though, Bitcoin dojing here, you got two scenarios: consolidation, pullback, and that setup, Frank, where you're in this situation will happen a lot in your trading career.
Oh, absolutely.
It ran like, look at Baidu today. I am so interested in Baidu, but I've missed every opportunity on it for a month, and great news around them wanting to get
Baidu.
BIDU. And now I'm just like, okay, what do you do? Right. You missed it. It took off. It went off like a rocket ship, broke 150, ran to 200 in very short order. And now it's either consolidation or pullback. And Frank, we run into that scenario a lot, don't we?
Oh, we absolutely do. And that's why we have to wait for those things to develop and just be happy for the people involved if we didn't catch it, right? That's what I always try to remind myself. Just because I didn't make money on Baidu doesn't mean somebody I know probably did, right? Lots of somebody's probably, but somebody did, right? I'll just be happy for them. I still have to get my signals, right? If I get that consolidation break, then I can repeat that, right? If I just buy it because I'm missing out, that's not repeatable. And that's where I can end up, getting it in at the end of a parabolic trend, right? And so who knows where it stops, right? Things will stop where they want to stop, not where Frank says they should. So we just have to let that development happen. Whatever it is, not everyone has to do it my way. I don't expect that at all. But what I do expect is everything that every trader is doing is repeatable over the long term, right? And not just, and buying just cause, I guess technically is, you can repeat that process, but I think we all should do a little bit better than that.
And by the way, just watch the chat here. Love it here. Glika says, I actually just held through the whole thing. I'm finally back into profit and I had a long-term expectation for it. Good for you, Glika, for not capitulating on a decision that you made. That's awesome. A lot of people would have. Earl says, I took some profits on Bitcoin, but will continue monthly purchase for the long term. And I think that's very sensible. I mean, if somebody's deciding that, Frank, I think there's nothing wrong with that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, this is a good problem for us to have, right?
Yep.
I'm up a ton. Do I want to just let it roll? I completely understand that. Do I want to scale out? I completely understand that. Do I, so, I mean, these are the problems that we want in life, right? What to do with your Bitcoin that's just killing it, right? No one's going to feel sorry for those problems.
First world
I guess
problems
my overall
right
thought is if you're trading Bitcoin with a plan and your plan is not just a paper bag in the wind that keeps changing, then I'm okay. If you have a plan to what you're doing in Bitcoin, great, keep on it, because the plan doesn't work unless you work the plan. So if you were trading it, that's where I would say take profit, because that would be your plan, is be a trader. If you're gonna be a holder, then keep holding it because that's your plan. So
plan your
whoever's
trade.
sticking to the
Here's my plan. I mean, I do believe in the institutional ownership theme. I do. If I have clear breakouts, like really pretty ones, like some of the ones we had in October and that break of 20,000, I'm going to add a little exposure. If I have huge pullbacks, I'm going to add exposure. So I'm going to use big retracements and clean breakouts to add exposure, just using technical analysis, on something that I have a now fundamental conviction on. I can't believe 2020 is complete for me.
2020 is complete. All right, guys, let's keep moving. One last one, copper. I did want to have a quick, conversation with Mark about copper because it's just been on fire. And I read some interesting notes out of, I believe it was Goldman Sachs, Mark, over the week or over the night. They posted this yesterday and I read it this morning. Copper is at the highest point it's been since January of 2013. It's had a tremendous run. Goldman pointed out the correlation of copper to Bitcoin this year and just the performance of it, after the pandemic, as prices started coming back, the nature of its movements, things like that. I thought that was really interesting. And I don't know if that has long-term legs to it. I don't know if that's a short-term phenomenon because risk assets are all just being lifted. Marky, what are your thoughts on this?
It's this, once again, it's like when we were talking about oil. And I talked about this yesterday in the show, how copper and small caps have a correlation, right? It doesn't mean that they have a correlation. They are just part of this Pfizer trade, this out of a recession. There is a playbook when you come out of a recession. And ever since the Pfizer vaccine, that thing has been kicked into overdrive. Coming out of a recession, industrials, semiconductors, small caps, copper, oil. These are all coming out of a recession plays, and they've all been on fire since the Pfizer news. Now, when do you enter if you miss the boat? Well, once again, just like Bitcoin, wait for a clean breakout, wait for a deep retracement. Just the same thing with Bitcoin, because this coming out of a recession play, it's been on fire the last 4 or 5 weeks, and it has legs as long as we're coming out of a recession. If that thing changes if the sentiment behind that changes, well, then copper gets hit and oil gets hit, and small caps get hit, semiconductors get hit. So it's all about the strength of that theme right now. And themes are powerful. Themes are powerful. And that's had some legs to it. Where does it end? It's really overextended right now, like really overextended. So it's not a great entry for me. And if it just takes off to the moon, well, once again, I have exposure in this general theme, so I'll be happy. So otherwise, wait for a clean break.
I wanted to switch the chart based on what Tim said in the chat. To answer that question, Tim, I'll pass this to you as I pulled up FCX.
Well, a couple ones here. You know, Earl asked, is there a decent way to trade HG in the stock market? And I just answered the most common way. And me and Frank looked like we had a little race there to get the answer out.
Yeah, you beat me.
The most common way is to play Freyport, McMoran, copper, and gold. I know that from our perspective, we've had it on our reports a lot this year. It's been a juggernaut.
If you've been watching the commodity report at any point this year, I bring up FCX almost every week. So if you want to learn how to play commodities, FCX has been a darling. Us commodity people at Tackle Trading, it's been a very, very, very nice trading instrument. The only complaints is that you don't get put shares sometimes. The only complaints is you get called out, but it has been a very, very nice trading instrument. I mean, look at it living on that 20 weekly, right? A pullback to that 20 weekly would be really nice, just like you've had a couple times. I mean, look at that.
Impressive.
I mean, it's almost unreal to look at what it did this year.
You know, I mean, and once again, I would wait for real quality. When you get this overextended, I would wait for real quality entry points.
And then Mark, a follow-up from Earl on that. Is there a way to play palladium and platinum? I know for me, PALL, Cody, has been a way to get direct exposure to palladium in the past. Problem with some of these ETFs, if you're not just looking for the investment in the metal, there's no options on them.
There's no options.
There's no options on
PLTM.
Yeah.
If you want direct exposure, you can't cash flow them, which puts a real hindrance on your ability to maximize the trade. I mean, those options are so powerful in maximizing your overall returns. It's like Greg yesterday. And if you're just watching today, but you didn't catch yesterday and interested in dividends, Greg did a little segment on this show on dividends. And he talked about how, hey, you're getting 5, 6, 7%. And with a little bit of cash flow, you can push that up to a 10, 12% annualized return. Pretty decent for a boring, stable part of your portfolio. But we don't have that ability on these instruments, which is unfortunate. Maybe one day. Maybe one day.
Let's move on to individual companies here as we make a transition. I'm going to bring in a guest that I see popped into our halftime report. Whenever Frank shows up, magically Emily shows up. I'm not certain. Maybe there's a correlation there. You love Frank's charts.
There is a direct correlation to that. Whenever Frank's on, Emily is going to find a way to sneak in and
always appreciate it, Emily. Always good to see you.
Cody and Mark aren't that bad either, but I appreciate Frank.
Right.
You left one person out here. There's only 5 of us here. You mentioned how you like to see Frank, Cody, and Mark. And all right, I get it. All right.
Hi, Tim.
Hey, how you doing, Emily? By the way, Emily is here for one major purpose, actually, besides to hang out, look at charts, and talk markets, which you do every day, Emily. But you got an event tonight, the Women in Trading Mastermind Group. And Cody, while you're on the screen, can you go to the website real quick? I want to make sure we properly promote this. And ladies out there, it means a lot. I know for Coach Emily to see the support, and I know you guys are so supportive of this mastermind group. I get a lot of comments from the regulars that are getting out there. If you've never attended it, come and join us. It is not just for pro members. This is one of those events that we actually do provide for everybody. Should be on the events page as well that you can find it. So if you're looking for it, best way to find it, go to the Trade Center there, Cody. Yep. And you can look at the old mastermind groups here. Go to the events calendar. You can actually access it, I think, from both entry points. And tonight, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have our Women in Trading group. Emily, what you can do tonight, and hopefully I set you up there with at least a little bit of promotion, try to get some ladies out to this event here. But what are you going to do tonight?
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Well, we're going to do what we always do, which is just talk trades, but also just talk mindset and all the things that it takes us women to trade and be consistent with it. And one of the goals that I had for 2020 with Women in Trading is to obviously increase exposure to this area of tackle trading to get more ladies engaged, and then also to get them to start to reach out and ask questions. And I got to say, I'm really impressed as to how, I'm seeing more ladies in the chat and expressing themselves and talking about trades. We have our regulars here with Dina and Maria and Marie and Stephanie and all these other ladies that are here. But, obviously I'm trying to get that to continue to grow into 2021. So the more engagement we can get from you ladies out there, the better off we will be. But yeah, we're going to have fun tonight. We're going to kind of like review 2020 and just kind of see where we started and where we're ending this year and talk about planning for next year as well.
I love it. I'm excited for it. Enjoy the show here tonight. And by the way, while we're here on the site, Cody, go up to the tackle today. I'm gonna give you just guys a real simple task before the Women in Trading event tonight. Read the blog that Emily posted today for the Tackle Today blog, and that Women in Trading 2020 right there, year in review. Wonderful. I loved it, Emily. I really enjoyed the writing you had. I could tell, there's a message here, and I thought it was great. So definitely everybody should read that blog.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yep. All right, back on individual stocks, and let's get down to it. Tesla first. Let's bring this one up. It's been a juggernaut. It is the last trading day for Tesla before they get included to the S&P 500. Now, there was even some chatter earlier in the month, and Cody, let's go back to charts if we can. There was some chatter earlier in the month. They might do this 2 days.
I wasn't on the correct screen.
Oh,
can you see my screen now?
We got you.
Got you, brother.
Now, when you were joking about you're on mute being a quote of the day in the chat, they were like, there's a few others. Like, can you see my screen?
Can you
hear
see
me
my
now?
screen? I like that. Guys, it's been a juggernaut. Even since the announcement they were going to be included in November, I mean, the stock has gone from $400 to $684. Is that what I'm reading right there? It's been a pretty incredible run for the year, even just the last 6 weeks or so. Now we've got S&P inclusion on Monday. Frank, you got a breakout here technically. Mark, number one, does the news and the event make you not want to trade a stock in general when they've got something like this going on? I know Tesla's not your bag with the momentum style play that it is. I don't have any plays on Tesla either. I've kind of avoided it because it's just been crazy to me, but I can see how strong it's been.
Well,
how do you read
theme,
this, Mark?
right? It's a theme. Themes are powerful. Like they are the driving force for almost everything I do when there's a theme. Like when I think there's a powerful bearish theme, I'm really, really careful with everything I do. There hasn't been a bearish theme. We've been talking about that with pro members on Sunday night. Sign up for a free trial. Go to the store tab, Tackle Trading. Sign up for a 15-day free trial. See what the pro membership is all about. But there hasn't been a bearish theme in the market. No trade war, no election risk, no COVID, no Fed doesn't have your back like end of 2018. We haven't had a bearish theme. Themes are powerful. This inclusion into the S&P 500 has obviously been a powerful theme for Tesla. That theme's going to be ending today. So Tesla now, I'm sure we'll find something new at some point. So obviously, I am not a fan of these valuation levels at all, to say the least. I think it's ridiculous. But guess what? I have about 15,000 trades on things that I also think are equally ridiculous right now. It's the market we're in.
Mm-hmm. Frankie, this chart is still very, very strong here, and you got a breakout heading into a news event on Monday. I mean, do you not take a trade personally for you if you know there's this thing on Monday, or does this thing doesn't seem like a big deal and maybe you still could map out a trade, maybe if you had fixed risk or use the options market with a debit spread or something? I mean, how do you deal with the news like this?
I wouldn't force the issue. I mean, and I guess that's probably the easiest way. It wouldn't keep me 100% away from it. I'd probably prefer to use something, fixed risk like a spread, if I were going to go that route. Generally, though, I'm not the type of dude that's looking to buy something. And I don't think that's a big deal. Personally, I think it's absorbed, right? The inclusion day, I don't think is that big of a deal, but doesn't mean I'm right. So why mess with it is kind of my philosophy. I'm pretty notorious in that regard. If there's something that might kind of blow up the charts in my head, there's other options out there. And so, if I'm, big Tesla guy, though, I mean, that wouldn't stop me fundamentally from taking the trade. It just is not my style.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I think that's the prudent approach. But, if somebody does say, hey, listen, my rules to trade the chart's a breakout. I've got my rules. I've got my money management. I would be hard to critique them. I would at least probably just issue some caution. about just the nature of what's going on here with Tesla, fixed risk, something like that. I don't even think trading equity with a stop loss would control it enough for me personally. I gotta tell you. So it is what it is. Two quick ones here I want to get to. Then I want to get to Frank's charts. FedEx had their earnings report, smashed it in one regard. They recorded a quarterly profit of $4.83 a share, 82 cents a share above expectations. Revenue topped expectations, and they continue to believe they're going to have a surge in e-commerce. Stock did not react well, though, Mark, in a risk-off type of scenario. It actually gapped down, now below a moving average. When you have great numbers, Mark, but uncertainty about guidance moving forward.
They didn't provide guidance.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is telling because, like, once again, I mean, there have been themes of earnings seasons this year. The first time coming out of pandemic, companies didn't provide guidance. They weren't penalized at all. Next time around, weren't penalized at all. So companies have not, in fact, the companies that were penalized were your Cisco's, were individual companies that did provide guidance and the street didn't like it. This is interesting to me, not necessarily for FedEx. If you ever had a big dip in FedEx, really significant dip, I'm really interested there. But the fact that they didn't provide guidance and were punished, I think fast forward a month from now, when we have that earnings season, I think that's going to be really, really interesting. Earnings season since the pandemic have been a gold mine. Very, very few gap downs. Increased volatility, right? And with those options, but not a lot of volatility in the chart post earnings. And companies have been able to get away with it. This is going to be very interesting. If companies don't provide guidance and get hammered, that's going to be really interesting a month from now.
Yep. Pull the guidance, don't provide it, and boom, that stock is now down. And obviously, Frank, that blows that chart up in the short term, doesn't it?
Yeah, that makes it real tough to want anything to do with that as a bull.
And then last one, Moderna, mRNA, another kind of, one of these stocks have been in the news a lot here recently. They've been seeking FDA approval. The panel that did set to meet over their coronavirus vaccine seeking emergency use authorization did recommend that it should get emergency use authorization. Looks like it's going to join the Pfizer train there in terms of getting a vaccine out to the public, and obviously more of a human story, in my opinion, than a stock story, although the chart, interesting here. I don't really see anything there. Frank, anything there that...
Nah, nothing too exciting. Roundy top, pull back into the 20. You could probably talk yourself into just about anything on that chart.
I agree.
Working in this field, I would tell you, stay away, don't do drugs. Use that metaphor plenty of times. All this movement on Moderna is based on the COVID vaccine. After the vaccine's distributed, then what?
Yeah.
Then you have to look back at, what's the company doing post vaccine? And I don't see this type of price appreciation in Moderna being sustained long term.
Well, flash through a couple of these stocks that have been around the vaccine storyline here, Cody. To that point, look at Pfizer real quick. PFE. I mean, not exactly a smooth chart, and maybe you like it at these levels. It's got a nice little pullback, deeper retracement. Somebody might come in and say naked put. I know Coach Tyler was talking about that recently. Or even Coach Greg, So
Pfizer's value is in its other drugs in its other products in the medical field that it produces, not the vaccine itself.
Yep.
So I'm okay with Pfizer long term because of the other aspects that it has within its repertoire.
Well, and I'm not even making a point about
Speaking of Pfizer long term, Tyler alluded to this earlier this week. Go look at those February options. We're getting about 60 days out, a few more. But Pfizer's had some things. Whenever Pfizer gets into things where you can sell puts in the lower 30s and get a decent premium, so whether it's 33, 32, 33, 34, pick your level. I always pound the table on that from now for the last 3 years until something changes. Nice dividend company. So once again, that dividend portion of your portfolio, Cody's like, I've missed the last time Mark talked about that 3 weeks ago, because go back to the chart. I mean, we had this opportunity last week ago and I did it, and I have a January option at 34, is that we had that big volatility after the Pfizer news itself created a opportunity. Now with the Pfizer rollout, it's funny. Something good happens on the vaccine and Pfizer. For apparent, I don't know what it is, but a short-term volatility theme emerges. Happened on the initial Pfizer news, happened on the rollout news. Creates an opportunity to get reasonable naked puts on a nice dividend company in the lower 30s. Good cost average down plan, good dividend company. Yeah.
No, I completely agree with everything you just said, Mark. If you want to own some form of healthcare company like Pfizer or J&J or something like that, these are the times that with the high volatility on this company, this is where you sell the puts so you get the premium coming in. And if it goes down those levels, as Mark always says, don't sell naked put unless you're willing to own the shares at that level. I don't own Pfizer at 30. I'd be very happy to own Pfizer at 30.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, and
Extremely
then if
happy.
it dropped to 27, I'd be happy to add another 100. And if it dropped to 22, I'd be happy to add a couple hundred more. It's just one of my favorite dividend plays. And it always seems to provide opportunity. It always seems to provide opportunity.
Well, and my thought around the whole thing has been, I mean, these momentum news driven moments, like you see Pfizer had the news around Pfizer Monday, a month and a half ago, then it gave it right back. Then we had the news on, rolling out, Mark, then it gave it right back. We've seen, Moderna, these other companies. In fact, Cody, just flashed through them. We don't even really need to analyze them too much. Just want to look at the price action. Look at AstraZeneca, which has been in the news all year long. AZN. They're working on a COVID vaccine that has made a lot of progress, and look at what the stock's done. I mean, it had news days that drove it way higher, but then it gave it back. We're sitting on a floor right now. Look at Gilead. We talk Gilead throughout the year. You have the news days on these pops, these, announcements come out, people get excited. Back in April and May, that was huge for Gilead. It's given it all back throughout the whole year. That's an ugly, ugly, ugly chart. And I think there was one even today, like Regeneron. Look at REGN. You get these news stories and you can feel like a rock star on certain days when it starts to come out. But Mark, just on news alone, that doesn't make a drug company profitable. So it's a different animal when you're picking companies in this space. Don't you guys think?
Yeah, no. And listen, there are so many areas of the market. And because biotech and pharmaceutical companies can oftentimes, especially these micro and small and mid-cap companies, can have such huge moves up and down, they attract a certain type of individual who likes the action. Guess what? There's lots of action everywhere. So, and it's one of those areas it's always hard for me because I'm not, while we're all medical experts in 2020, I am not a medical expert. And so there's so many different trials and so many different drugs. And, I'm not the dumbest individual to ever be on the planet, but man, when I try to research some of these companies, I feel like a freaking idiot. So, I'll pick a few big companies like Pfizer. Yeah. So, yeah.
Cody, I think
I saw a quote that made me laugh the other day. I apologize. I saw a quote the other day that made me really laugh because I think it's the way I've been feeling, especially through this year with COVID and everything. It was something along the lines of, don't confuse your Google search with my degree in the medical field.
Seriously.
And I saw that, and it definitely made me laugh. But I mean, all these companies, like I do work, in a laboratory. I'm a toxicologist, and so many of these drug companies. And I was thinking about something that I heard Tyler say a while back, is that typically price action drives news. Something will move, and then the news headlines will match that. Drug companies are a little bit the opposite. They move based on the news. Their price action moves after the news comes out. Trying to pre-anticipate what the news is going to be within a drug company is not trading. And Mark talked about this, I think it was 2 or 3 days ago, where he said there's a difference between investing, trading, and gambling. I think trying to base any type of news expectation on a drug company is gambling, and I don't condone it. I don't think anyone should be trying to trade something based on a news event that they think is going to drive a stock.
Yeah, it's a tough area of the market to try to understand the themes that move it. So, Hey, if you can figure it out, God bless. There's just a lot of other easier areas.
Let's go to the other easier areas of the market, and that's when you get clean charts for swing setups and all that kind of stuff. Frankie, I know on a Friday, I'm not going to make the people wait anymore here, Emily. It is time. We're going to bring Frank's charts in, and we're going to talk about them. Frank, you always bring a few of them dialed up, ready to go on a Friday. You ready to go?
Absolutely.
Let's do this.
And all right. And it's my last Friday of the year with the double holiday. So I better make these ones count, right?
Listen,
we bring you in on a Thursday. Come on.
Well,
Hey, you're not getting away from us that quickly. You're coming in next Thursday.
you think you've not heard of my Christmas hibernation?
I know Frank well enough to where I would take his word. So if he's hibernating, he's going into hibernation. Anyway, Frankie, what do you see in the charts?
All right, let's start with just a little low price stock breakout play in MTG. Cody.
MTG.
Yes, sir. Magic investment. How do you not want something with the name Magic, right? That's just gotta be something in play. So we've been banging our head at resistance, the last several days, right? To keep smacking. Will we break? Well, only time will tell. But one thing I like about this, obviously, we've got the momentum. We've got those rising moving averages. We also have a decent little window that I'm seeing into about that 1330, 1340 range. So that's 1255 or so into that range. So risk to reward can potentially look appealing to me. Can I sign anybody up for a little breakout play on MTG?
This is a REIT, right?
No, they're insurance.
Okay. All right. Trying to.
That's a trade.
The only thing I'm trying to decide is a swing trade or position trade. I think it's a position trade, being in the industry it's in.
Give me a weekly chart. I'd have to see some more time on this one before I can answer the question. I see it. It's one of those situations for me, Frankie. I see it, but it's not my cup of tea.
Sure.
I like it for a cash flow position trade. I do.
Yeah.
Also
On
got
the shares,
dividends.
sell calls. I like it for a cash flow position trade.
Mhm.
And it's also a nice, cheap stock that, a lot of traders could actually get into. Yeah, I like this. I would own the shares and sell calls on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If it breaks, I'd ride the break.
List.
So I can get behind that.
Yeah.
Okay. Next.
All right. Let's talk GoPro, GPRO. Breaking out
no.
here today.
No.
Yep.
Where's Matt?
No. Matt
Nope.
is not here. Matt is not here to stop Mark and I and Tim from enjoying GoPro.
I am though.
Yeah, but
No.
we're not afraid of you.
No.
I mean,
I got the charts. No.
Uh-huh.
So you're breaking out of a
let's-
nice little top here today on GoPro, having a decent day of it too, up close to 4%. I know Mark and I talked a little bit about this one last week in our reports. Mark, you still interested in the breakout on GoPro?
Yep. I mean, pull up a weekly chart. There's been opportunities to play this. This has listen, once again, I haven't looked at the fundamentals of GoPro forever. So, pull up a weekly chart here. You broke out of, I don't know what that is. Okay, there we go. You broke out of Grandmama. I mean, this is a classic. I mean, it's been going on for a while now. Break out of Grandmama, come back, test, catch rising 9, take a little leg up, catch the rising 9. That's a beautiful reversal pattern. There's a lot of clear air to the upside, right?
Yeah, there's some room to work. What do you think about 12, Mark? Is that kind of where your eyeballs are drawn towards 11.50, 12 mark?
Yeah,
for the next area. I mean, it's low price, it's cheap. I don't have the bad history with GoPro that some other people do, so it's not personal.
Yeah, I've never lost $1 on this company. So
and that's not even my history with it, but is the reason why I'm biased on it a little bit. I don't know the answer to this, so I'd have to do the research, and I've not done it yet. The chart's clean, can't argue with it, but I think they've got like a bunch of pending intellectual property lawsuits and stuff. And so that's kind of why I instinctively always stay away from GoPro. But
Sure.
It's possible, Frank, they've already settled that stuff, and I just don't track it because GoPro was off my radar for years. So I'd have to look into the fundamentals.
There's
in the news.
nothing wrong with that.
Tesla's valued at tulip levels. The chart's the chart. There's clear air for a short-term trade there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm a chart guy. So I don't put a lot of thought for the next swing on the fundamentals
sure.
personally. All right, so but you know, there's a trade for everybody, and there's trades for everybody to pass on. There's nothing, you know, ever wrong with any of that. What about, Tim? This might be something I could talk you into. What about Angie? ANGI.
Oh, GE. Okay. I heard
one of the
GE.
things one of
I
the
heard
things
GE. Okay. All right, GE. You know what? I can see the little pullback here on GE. Yeah, I could definitely get behind it.
There you go.
Cody.
I
Tim's
like
triggered.
Tim. I'm not going to do him dirty like that.
Tim's
Cody, you're
starting
saucy
to switch.
today. And I like it. Go
I
ahead.
can't take credit. It was actually Jonathan's idea in the chat, and I did like the idea.
Emily, go ahead there.
No, I was just saying it's starting to twitch, you know, so stop it.
Absolutely. All right, let's roll here. What was the chart you were
Frank,
bringing up?
yeah, Frank, what was it?
ANGI. We already know that Tim's got a long position in there. You don't want to add any more to it.
My first thought was Angie, the song from the Rolling Stones, one of the greatest bands,
Of course it was,
ever.
yeah.
But yeah, what are we seeing here, Frankie? A little reversal.
So we got a little double bottom that's kind of was just smashing into that resistance, right? Broke out a little short-term resistance. We're kind of hanging at that old pivot here today. So showing some reversal characteristics after, you know, a little bit of selling. So just kind of the old double bottom W type of pattern that's potentially developing here on Angie.
Mm-hmm. I love reversal patterns. It's one of my favorite things in the market. And there's so many different points that you're going to play it here. Obviously, we're now at that reversal breakout scenario, back above moving averages. There's a lot of history right in here. I got no critique of the chart analysis for the potential for the breakout. Would love to have a little volume maybe coming on the breakout, but we don't need that pre-breakout. So I'm good here, Frank. I like this one.
Hey, I'm gonna. One of the things I love about Frank's charts is I look at charts. First of all, they're usually very technically beautiful, right? But then I look at companies that I haven't seen in a while. Pull up the weekly chart here. I'm going to give some extra beauty to this thing potentially. There's Grandmama. There's Grandmama. It's. I mean, look. I mean, I know for a new trader, you're not going to see what I'm seeing here necessarily. This thing has had a battle of resistance weekly moving averages for 3-4 months now, where it's come up, gets slapped down, come up, gets slapped down, come up, gets slapped down. It is starting to clean cover past Grandmama. You're looking at a potential close above to end this week. There's some room there. I like it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So nice. All right, let's do a couple more here. Just picking decisions. I don't know what you do with this, and probably it's put it on a watch list, Tim, but BLDP, Ballard Power Systems.
Ballard Power Systems.
Right. I mean, we're threatening to break out, right? It's, you know, if Matty was here, I know Matt, right? And I want the same thing. You know, it's a little extended off of this recent support bounce into this resistance. So I would love a little cooking here before breaking out, but a pretty clean breakout right at that top there. Tested it on multiple occasions, just around that 2170 range. I don't know. I'm with Matt. I don't like to buy the breakout here. I would like some consolidation, but I love the placement on the chart itself.
Momentum off of a W breakout is definitely viable trading signal, though. You know,
absolutely. Yeah, just because I don't like it, it doesn't mean it's not a good signal, right? It's just not my style.
I could even argue a larger cup and handle here, even though that handle's a W. I could argue that.
Yeah,
as well.
There's a lot to like about that potential break, in my opinion. I'm just greedy, right? I just kind of want to see. I would love a little Again, I'm asking for nothing to happen next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, right? Consolidate. That would really put these guys on my radar. I mean, we've been going sideways for months. You know, I think there's going to be a good opportunity if we can break through that resistance. And if it just continues to go crazy on the momentum side and I miss it, I'll be happy for the other people who are in. I'll get an opportunity.
Yep, I'm with you on that one. Next.
All right. I know I shared this one with you guys on Wednesday, and that was Nuance, NUAN. I heard you guys talk about it in the report. Just a little breakout candidate. When I brought it up to you guys on Wednesday morning, my note was I want to let it cook a little bit, and well, sometimes you get what you ask for, right? It doesn't hurt to try. So we're continuing
long-term uptrend that it had before it had this pop into that base.
Exactly. I mean,
I
it's
like that.
Nuance has been one of a stock that's been really solid for me this year. I do like the breakout. I still would like a little more time to cook and let that 9 kind of spring us through. And again, it doesn't hurt to ask, right? Just don't
And the
expect to
20's
get.
catching up right now.
So 20's catching up, right at that 44 mark. So just a clean little breakout over here on Nuance. I know it sounded like you liked the breakout potential when I was listening in on Wednesday. Mark, anything changed?
Listen, all 5 of these charts that you've listed, I think are playable candidates, and not just like on the edges, right? Like, yeah, I see it. I mean, this is some good stuff here today.
They're pretty clean.
I like the
Appreciate that.
consolidation, and if you zoom all the way tight in there, Cody, you'll find 2 little dojis.
Yep.
Right there at the back end. You don't always get what you wish for,
Little
Frank, but
doji, 2 little
You can
doji.
ask, right? It never hurts
did we
to
inspire the music?
I remember writing an article about the beauty of a doji, and this is a beautiful doji. I would take this doji out for dinner.
There you go. There you go. You're a romantic, though, Cody. All right, a couple more, and then we'll wrap up. IR. We've been watching IR consolidate for a while now, right? We stuck our nose above resistance here today. We'll have to see if we can actually close that or not. It's right there on that line, right, as we speak. But we held support. You know, there were a few times I thought support was going to give out, and I was going to take them off my breakout list, but so far, we've continued to hold support, trying to push through that resistance here today. Still got to see where we go, but putting up a fight.
I love it when you bring up a stock that's already on my list. It might be confirmation bias. I'm not certain about that. Now I got to think about the psychology.
Sure, who doesn't love confirmation bias, right?
I seriously
We
thought you were going to
seek-
break into a rap song and sing the Biggie song, but never mind.
No, not right now. I really like this one, Frank. I've been
As
waiting and
humans, we
watching this for a
seek
while.
confirmation bias. We
Yeah.
seek confirmation bias all the time. Most of the times we get, students that'll ask about charts. They just want us to confirm what they're already seeing. We seek confirmation bias.
Sure.
So this being on your chart, I mean, this would be a good break.
Sure.
Very clean.
Yeah. Marky, what do you see here? IR. Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Yep.
And listen, these are all very, 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 very pretty.
Yep.
I appreciate
Okay.
it. I always want to find the easy ones, right? Or at least quote unquote easier ones. I want my life to be as easy as possible when it comes to this stuff. So I want to talk to Em about this one here, and that's DK. So oil refining. So I'm going to throw this one to Mark and Emily. Pullback recently broke above the 200 mark and has kind of pulled back into that moving average soup. I think it's important. It doesn't have a lot of room to go down anymore without getting taken off of my list. But if we can build some support here in this zip code, confirmation wouldn't come for me until we were back above the 200 at this point. There is some room that I'm seeing if I'm looking in the energy space to that 50 on the weekly, which is about 1775. What are your thoughts here, Am?
Out of all the ones that you've shared, this was probably my least favorite one. But I can see the play above, if it breaks above that 16, get a confirmation on that. And can I see a weekly on that, Cody, real quick?
Yeah, I'm a much bigger fan
Absolutely,
of breakouts, as everybody knows.
Yeah.
Right? I'm a breakout guy at heart. So I always like to get my confirmation bias on anything that's not a high momentum retracement. I can deal with those ones. So
Yeah,
I think the weekly's working against you here, Frank.
Yeah, I'll pass on this one.
Gonna
You've
pass
given
out
me
on-
much better ones. Yeah.
So fair enough. What about CNX in the energy space then? Could I talk into a cheap little breakout? Again, much like our friends at IR, they're will they, won't they, Ross and Rachel style from Friends, right, here today. So hard to tell until we get a close. But assuming we were able to get a close here, little trade up into the $12 range.
You can talk me into this one more than you can, DK.
That's more my style. I'm not a big pullback guy, as most folks can attest. So yeah, I'm sure we'll have a few more before the day is done in our stock and options report. But always a pleasure. Always fun to come talk charting with the team. So thank you as always for having me, guys and gal.
Here's the joy I have right now. There's two things. Number one, I know Frank has about 100 more of these, and we get to go through all of them and kind of just find the ones we love, right? We do that in our weekend reports. We actually go through our scouting report planning meeting here this afternoon after the bell. We start looking at a lot of these picks. We have discussions about them, and then the other coaches do it as well. And it's just a wonderful way for us to get ready for our weekend content. If you're a pro member, you know how important the options report, the stock report, the commodity report, the Forex report, all of our reports and our newsletter are. And if you're not a pro, there's a 15-day trial in the comments below. Pretty simple. Come and join us, see what we're all about. And Frankie, when you said, I pick the easy ones, you made me think of Matt. Matt had a student once come up to him and when he was teaching class, in a ballroom. And a student was like kind of trying to give Matt a little criticism. He says, Mr. Justice, I appreciate what you're showing us here, but you're just showing me the easy charts. And Matt looked at the guy, said, well, you don't have to trade the hard ones.
Yeah, you don't. You learn that one pretty quick. You know what? You find out what charts aren't your cup of tea, and you leave those alone, and you go to the ones that work for you, right?
That's right.
That's right. Not have to trade the hard ones.
Yeah,
that's the whole purpose of trading is finding the easiest charts to trade. Like that's the job.
You nailed it. You nailed it. That's right. All right, let's give final thoughts here. Emily, you first. The Queen. Go ahead.
Well, I have two. Well, one, obviously, we have women in trading tonight, so I'm excited for that. And then my second final thought is that when we do go through our scouting report meetings today, I'm going first, and my picks are Magic, GoPro, and
I support all of them, and I'll veto DK. I'll veto DK preemptively.
And veto DK from me. That's it.
I love it. Frankie, final thoughts from you, sir.
Always fun. Always enjoy hanging out with you guys and the team. So thank you for having me. I hope everybody has a great holiday. And I may or may not see folks again. I'll see you, Tim and Em and Mark, but I may not see the folks, in the chat. So if I don't get a chance to see you again, have a fantastic and safe holiday season. Trade smart. Take some time for yourself. We'll get right back into it as we get into the new year. I can't believe it's almost Christmas, but it is.
Hey man, 1 week away. Absolutely.
Hey, days go slow, years go fast. So yep. I'll go ahead and throw my last thoughts out there. I agree with what Frank said. Excuse me. Trade smart. That's the whole easy trades, and that actually also plays into something that's happening in the chat right now. Is MacPack Trader said you don't get extra credit for trading tough trades.
That's the great trade line. Awesome. It's a great line, MacPack. Yeah, that's a great line.
Somebody grab that and tweet that.
Yeah, that's a good line.
That's a good line. You don't get extra credit for taking tough trades. Take the easy ones. That's the trading smart. So I always sign off of my Forex reports by saying, trade small, trade smart. See you next week. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is, trade to the position size, trade the easy trades. Don't try to overcomplicate things. Take the easy trades because those will compound over time, and you don't have to do any fancy trade strategies with every single trade. You don't have to force a trade. You don't have to be an architect. Now, there are architect traders like our resident Craig that you can hand him any chart and he can build a trade out of it. You don't have to do that though, especially as you're learning. If you don't like the chart, you don't like the company, you don't like the trade, then move on. Don't waste any more mental energy on it. Look for the things that fit your comfort level, your portfolio, and your knowledge set, and trade those as you continue to build yourself as a trader.
Mm-hmm. I love it. I love the thought there, Cody. It's wonderful. Marky, final thoughts from you, sir.
Listen, just be careful out there. I mean, once again, it's been an excellent cash flow environment. There's been some directional opportunities for cash flow traders out there. Just be cautious. Just be happy making money. I like the Pfizer setup a lot too. The last time I led with that closing thought went very well. I like a dividend company when you can pick it up in a lower part of a range. I like the Pfizer opportunity quite a bit.
Yep. And my final thought, simple, guys. It's the weekend. Enjoy it. Be safe. Let's spend some time for yourself, with your family. It's been a long year for everybody. Read Emily's blog. It put me in a great mood here today. I thought there was wonderful wisdom and context there, Emily, that, really did affect my mindset on a day. And that's the beauty of of creating content and writing and sharing yourself with people, Emily, because you literally can impact people. So thank you for that. I do appreciate that. And other than that, guys, we'll be back on Monday for our regular programming, and we will talk to everybody.